Hello and welcome to more memories of a forgotten town as we take a look at our local history series Swindon Through the Years, delving into the archive of the town's former cable operator Swindon Cable, and a series that I first produced almost 20 years ago. Well, you may remember that in the first series we just viewed images from the past with a short explanation. It had many people trying to guess what the location looked like in a more modern view. So when it came to producing a second series, we thought it'd be more advantageous to compare the original view alongside a more modern view of the same location. Well, our location this week, as I'm sure you'll be able to tell from the view behind me, is Rodbourne and Rodbourne Cheney, and certainly the view of that old red brick wall that once housed inside the Swindon Railway Works reminds me of being a youngster, being led by the hand with my nan and taking a walk to Rodbourne to visit a friend of hers. That wall seemed to go on for absolutely ever. Now, of course, it's been partially demolished, and inside a car park for the outlet shopping centre, or change, here in Rodbourne. And talking of which, there are plenty more changes on the way in this week's Swindon Through the Years. From the sight of hundreds of men heading home after a day in the railworks, to changes to shops, bridges and even churches, an ever-changing town comes under the spotlight once again as we compare the original views to those of a more modern scene. So without any further ado, let's get underway and take a look at this week's Swindon Through the Years. With the help of the Swindon Society, we're stepping back in time to Swindon of yesteryear, a selection of images then and now from around the town. We start with a picture taken in 1910 in Rodbourne Road. It's a picture of the railway workmen on their way home to lunch, blocking the road as well as the raised pavement. 89 years later, the image is of a very different Swindon. The railway workshops closed, the workers no longer travel on foot or by tram. Today the path still winds its way under the main Bristol to London railway line. The buildings still stand, but it's now impossible to stand in the road to take the same view. In fact, who would have thought that people would one day be shopping on this site in the Great Western Designer Outlet Village? The year is 1912, and this is number 2 Rodbourne Road, a branch of the Co-op on the corner of Hawkins Street. The staff all dressed in the whitest of white aprons. Amazingly, 87 years later, the Co-op still trades on this site, the image of the store reflecting life in the 90s. The layout has changed, with the original door being bricked up and moved to a new position. We travel back to more recent times, back to 1955. This is the Bruce Street Bridge, too low to allow the trams or double-deck buses through, so they terminated here until the bridge was reconstructed in the 1960s. It's that replacement bridge that now spans traffic flowing along Great Western Way. Our view 44 years later. The traffic's so busy that another bridge was added along with a sprinkling of roundabouts. A far cry from the days when buses couldn't even pass underneath. The traffic today thunders past in all directions. Here's the off-licence in Rodbourne Road on the corner of Iffley Road, seen in 1955. It was built as a public house but never received a licence. Rolling on the calendar 44 years shows the building still stands. It still operates as an off-licence and it still carries the Arkles branding. It does, though, have a new bay window. Once again, the modern scene shows all too well the enormous traffic flow. Once again, it's impossible to stand where the original photograph was taken from. The year is 1960, and this is the primitive Methodist church in Rodbourne Road, known locally as the Tin Chapel. purchased from the armoury as a temporary premises before World War I. Today there are no signs of the chapel, however it's easy to see where it once stood. The sheltered flats now known as Iris Redmond Gardens stand at this location. It's the 1930s, and we cross over the North Wilts Canal Bridge from Rodbourne Road into Cheney Manor Road. The junction immediately to the right is Ferndale Road. There are newly laid pavements and the trees are mere saplings. Our reference point is the building to the left. Today the area has matured. There are a few extra buildings that have gone up in the almost 70-year gap, although the basic layout of the area remains unchanged. Here's a picture that evokes the thoughts of secluded country villages. Cheney Manor Road wound towards St Mary's Church was the only route until 1928, when Vicarage Road was built as a more direct route. The current view shows there have been very few changes. This corner of Cheney Manor still retains its country feel. The main difference is the trees that have matured to dwarf the buildings. This view is taken from the side of St Mary's in Cheney Manor. It shows a lock-up garage and the church hall. It's one of the strangest views to match up to the modern-day scene. The garage still exists. No longer a narrow lane, the thoroughfare is now a busy road. The road, in fact, was widened so much that the church hall was moved, stone by stone, back in the 1930s. At the same time, the hall was turned through an angle of 45 degrees. In fact, the hall still stands, although now slightly further down the road than the original location. It caused some debate as we tried to match up the two locations. It's the 1930s, and we're looking towards the Rodbourne Arms and Rodbourne Cheney School, before the road was widened and the pavements laid. The old route of what was once a country lane can clearly be seen. Today there's a constant flow of traffic along this busy artery towards the town. The houses remain the same on both sides of the street. The road's now been fully surfaced with a pavement laid since the 1930s. And finally, still in the 30s, a view looking back in the opposite direction. Cheney Manor Road with the Rodbourne Arms to the left and Morden Road Junction to the right. The small co-op grocery branch is in the centre of the picture. Today's scene shows that the houses on the right still stand and the co-op is still based at the same site, although the store's been dramatically rebuilt and enlarged within the last few years. Remembering the Swindon of yesteryear, with the help of the Swindon Society, a glimpse of Swindon through the years. And please like, comment or share on Facebook and YouTube, and look out next time. We'll be in an area known as High Swindon, comparing the pictures of the past with those of a more modern view in Swindon through the years.